Welcome to the Chronically Well podcast, where we hold real conversations with community that need to be heard. On today's episode, I have the honor of speaking with Chantelle. Thank you again. I appreciate you for joining me on this journey, which is the Chronically Well podcast. I have not formally had a conversation with you. Have we over?
I don't think so. I've been following you for a while, listening to the Chronically Well podcast. So thanks for having me, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So, Chantelle, could you please give us a brief description of who you are?
Yeah. Hey, guys. I'm Chantelle. I am a 2021 graduate of NC State. I have been a type 1 diabetic since I was 7. So right now we're approximating, honestly, 16, 17 years. Right now, I've been doing a lot of work in social justice, disability justice, helping, T1Ds find that type of representation, because that was one thing that was really hard for me growing up with having diabetes, not having someone that looked like me, someone that sounded like me, someone where I was from that was having that kind of experience. I also am doing a lot of work in the music industry. I'm a member of Grammy U, and I also do internship work with Greater Than Distribution, a marketing and A&R distribution firm in the music industry. So I'm excited to be here.
Look, you just said a whole lot. So I know that when I go into editing, I'm going to have to rewind and slow it down, because you mentioned some big things. And I just I'm going to humble you a bit right now because I want to make sure that you understand and truly know the gifts that you are given to the world and to society. Like, you are, within the last 3 years, a graduate of NC State, right?
Yeah.
Wolfpack.
We're in the Sweet 16, both men and women.
Men and women. Yeah. I've been following, college basketball for many years and whatnot. And the Wolfpack versus UNC rivalry for many years. And personally, I'm not a UNC fan like most people I know are. I'm a fan of the other Carolina team.
Hey, I was about to say, I thought we were becoming friends. You're going to claim UNC?
I'm not, but I am going to claim a Blue Devil.
I would rather claim a Blue Devil than a UNC. So
because of that rivalry.
No quarrels there.
Okay. But you also, you mentioned you're a member of Grammy U.
Yeah.
How'd you become a member? How are you a singer, songwriter?
I'm a singer, songwriter, producer, and I'm also working in arts entrepreneurship. That's part of my minor from NC State. So I'm working on creating a music business. I've done some work in A&R. Marketing is more my specialty too. So just more of exploring the industry, seeing what I can kind of get my hands on, what I'm good at, what I love. So it's all pretty exciting.
It's very exciting. As a person living with a chronic health condition such as type 1 diabetes, many people, you see many people talk about how they can't do this and the burdens that are living with diabetes. It is a great burden living with this chronic health condition because it's nonstop, literally. But for you to be able to just show face and let people know, I've been able to accomplish many things, many dreams, many goals. It gives insight to other people, adults and young people, both living with this chronic health condition, that they too can do these things. Because I didn't know that you were a singer, a songwriter, a producer. You do a lot of things, and they're very impactful and influential. Because myself, I over the last 10 years, I've been a media literacy instructor, where I work with students at an alternative setting, teaching them what the consumption of media is and how they can actually create and produce their own media. And I've also recorded music, produced, engineer, all of things like that. Me and my brother have done multiple production releases over the years. And just to know that I'm speaking with another, not only person that looks like me, who's managing a chronic health condition, but you also are involved in a lot of my interests. So yeah, we're going to become real good friends very
Yeah.
quick, very quick, very quick. So you said you were diagnosed at age 7?
Yeah. I was 7 when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. It was pretty hard. To be completely honest, I didn't really come to terms with it until 2020. So in the
Was it
midst of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was about to say, was it the pandemic
It was the pandemic.
that set in and shook you and was like, Tell, we got to get this beast because all of the information that's coming out from whether it was the CDC, NIH, whatever, it was always talking about people with the chronic health condition. And that number one with the asterisk was diabetes and how the effects of the coronavirus would be on them, how debilitating it was.
Yeah, I will say that was part of it. Most of it wasn't necessarily health based due to the pandemic. It was a combination of things. So, for instance, at NC State, when I first transferred there in 2019, 2020 was the year that I first met my friend who has type 1 diabetes. That was the first time I ever met anyone else with type 1 in 2020. So, from the age of 7, I believe it was 2007, 2008 to 2020, I never met another person with type 1 diabetes, never seen another person with type 1 diabetes, nothing of the sort. So when I met a few people in the marching band at NC State that had it, I was like, wow, there's actually other people that have diabetes. I know how like absurd that sounds, but it's just when you don't physically see it, it's kind of hard for you to conceptualize.
But you said you met a few people in the marching band at NC State with type 1.
Yeah, so it started out with this one person. Her name was Hannah. We were in different sections, and then the band director had told her, like, "Hey, there's another person in the band that has diabetes. If you need something," and she was actually going through a low and ran out of glucose tablets, and luckily I had some. So when I met her, she was like, "Hey, yeah, there's like 4 or 5 other people here in the band with type 1. Do you want to meet them?" I was like, "Yeah, definitely." So once that happened, it was a few months before the lockdown. And once we got into lockdown, I don't know about you, but I kind of isolated completely. I never left my apartment. I had one roommate, but she went back to like her hometown or whatever. So I had that time to sit and think about, all the things that I've gone through, what diabetes is, because it was one thing that I just was in denial about for the longest kind of time. It was more of, I don't know what this is. I don't need to deal with it. I'm going to do the bare minimum to stay alive and be functional, and I'm not going to think about it up until that moment in 2020.
Right. It was more of what I consider the Band-Aid approach.
Yeah.
Where we maybe cut, bruise, whatever, we stick a Band-Aid on it and eventually it'll heal itself. Or, it'll fix itself because upon diagnosis, you were diagnosed at 7 years old. Myself, I was diagnosed at 20 years old. 2 decades ago. I was not shared the information that, okay, if you don't do this, this will occur, or the true need for it.
For me, with being diagnosed at 7, it was a lot of formative years for me. So I remember a little bit life before diabetes. I got diagnosed the summer before I went into 2nd grade. So didn't miss school or anything, but as time progressed from 2nd grade forward, you could see a social change. So for instance, before in lunch, I had to leave class 5-10 minutes early to go check my blood sugar. I had to leave lunch early 5 to 10 minutes to go get insulin because I wasn't a fan of pumps. And then you would see like, oh yeah, Chantelle, you missed this, this, and this, XYZ. You can catch up with this later after class. And for me, that was just like a weird social implication because I'm a huge FOMO person. I hate missing out on things. I hate not being a part of things. And that was just like one small thing. Even when we went down to like class parties at the end of the year, everyone would have their own food. And then the teacher would just give me, my own separate thing, which looking back on it, great. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness. But at the same time, I just kind of felt singled out throughout my entire life.
It was a forced isolation.
Right.
They didn't take into consideration who Chantelle was as the person and as the kid in a growing classroom full of other people first. Yeah, that's a lot, heavy toll being placed on a child.
Yeah, and it was never something that was a malicious intent or anything that was more of a what's the best way to put this? More of a way to isolate me
Right. It
intentionally.
wasn't. It
It was
wasn't. It
more
wasn't
of
forced.
it was something that was kind of enforced to
Mhm.
where they thought, there's a lot of still stereotypes about diabetes. So a lot of my teachers didn't think I could eat sugar. A lot of my teachers didn't think that I could do this, that, and the third, where I could. And everyone told them that I could, but they were still worried about the fact that, oh, too much sugar could drive my blood sugar up to where I wouldn't be functional, or I'm not supposed to have sugar, but I'm trying to convince them that I'm supposed to have sugar because I'm a kid. I don't know any better. But that necessarily wasn't the case.
Right. And this was in a day and age before the quick Google search could tell you, and or social media could show you how people were managing and living well without having to be micromanaged at all times. And I don't know, during your diagnosis, many years ago, if things such as a 504 plan or IEPs were even in place in your in this county or state which you lived in.
Yeah, I definitely did have a 504 plan. We went through summer training with the teachers and the administrators at my school. A lot of it that I do believe was more internally based with me. So I never had any type of issues with students or teachers, faculty, anything like that. There was no bullying involved, anything like that. Everyone was very gracious with how I was treated when they found out that I was diabetic. But for me, it was more of the internal struggle with understanding all this stuff. So you spoke earlier about how you didn't necessarily know the effects of diabetes. I knew the effects of diabetes. I just didn't really conceptualize everything. So when you're growing up at 7, the most important thing to you is more of, oh, am I going to get picked first for kickball? Or am I going to get to sit at the table with my friends? Or do I get to go do this with my friends? Like, for instance, my parents were very strict after I got diagnosed. I was not able to go to friends' houses or do sleepovers or anything like that because they were worried that the parents or the adults in the rooms did not understand how to care for me if something were to go wrong. So it was just more of those types of things that just kind of kept me internally isolated.
Right. As a 7-year-old, it's always used as, well, even as a young child, it's always like, are you that child that always asks a parent why? Or are you the child that always is like, like your parents has the answers already and has everything planned out for you? So I don't know which one you were, but either or, if you were the child that asks why, you may internalize the feeling like, oh, there's my alert. You may be internalize the feeling, well, why am I asking my parents so much whys? And they may equally not have the answer to those whys. And at the same time, just having to ask your parent those whys may internalize you and have you feeling that my parents may not truly understand this disease as I don't understand it as well.
Yeah, I was definitely one of those why children. I asked why for literally everything. But most of my foundation of type 1 diabetes was based on the fact that, one, I would go years in just saying that I didn't have diabetes. I would go take my shots in private. Nobody would know about them. I'm just like, oh yeah, I just went to the bathroom. I just went to go get some water, not really speaking on the diabetes itself. And it was just really weird. I can tell right now when I went through my transition with my pediatric endo to the endo that I have now, he basically, when I first got diagnosed, it was an 80 something year old endocrinologist that was at the children's hospital with me. So that in itself was a barrier to me because as I started progressing in 2020, I learned all of these things about diabetes that I didn't necessarily know. Like, for instance, you can eat or drink whatever you want, which is something that my pediatric endo didn't tell me. And I was with him from age 7 to age 16. So I could, drink a lemonade if I wanted a lemonade. I was told I could only drink like water or diet soda. I could, drink alcohol. I could do whatever I wanted, but that's just something that was never conceptualized to me. my endo now is someone who is also diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So it's a lot easier to have those conversations because my previous one did not understand what it was like living with diabetes. I understand that you can study it for as long as you want to, but until you can conceptualize and empathize with the person that you're with, it really creates this large disconnect that's really hard for patients.
Right. You were given restrictions based solely off of a guide, a precedence that was there decades before even your own birth. A 80-year-old clinician or physician or just your doctor in general, it so much of his education was based off of things that occurred many, many decades before, even before your own parents' birth. Like, and I don't know if they were working with or helping manage many other children with diabetes, but just to think that if they were managing other children with diabetes, that they too were living through the same education you were giving. So a greater burden was being placed upon your life, and that burden was solely based off like restrictions, like telling a child, you don't do this, you can't do that. Like you weren't even able to just be free as a 7-year-old, like just being able to go and play and have fun and enjoy life. So I'm pretty sure there was a heavy toll being placed upon you at such a young and early age to where, I mean, I'm just thinking about myself being a 7-year-old at the time. 7-year-old, I just wanted to hop on my bike, ride around, go
Yeah.
visit friends. Seriously, like me and my sister were creating lemonade stands. Why would you create a lemonade stand? Like those whys, like because someone is already telling you, no, stay away from the lemonade.
Yeah. And it's like still something that's hard for me to this day. Like I would look at, say, like at Arizona, and I used to love Arizonas before I got diagnosed. And I would look at it and I'm like, I can't have this. And then I walk away. And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, wait.
And look, today I hear they make Arizona hard. Like I just found that out. like you can have that today if you want. Like in Arizona with alcohol. It's so like the things that we learn today. Just to think if just a little glimpse, a little bit of that was shared with that medical team then. Or if they, I mean, we don't even know if that 80-year-old man was even open to learning new things, new tricks. If he were to, like, if he was going through yearly
like
events and trainings where people even like were just showing him like the newer technology, newer gadgets, newer insulins, things of that nature to help better manage and take care of someone like yourself. Like, we don't know if he was even open to those ideas.
Yeah, one thing that was really notable about the conversations that we were having when I was younger, it wasn't more of what treatment plan fit me better. It was more of what was best for, I don't want to say best for him, but what he thought was best. So as I was saying earlier about my denial of having diabetes, my endo was pushing me heavily towards a pump, which is something that I just did not feel comfortable with. That was more of a personification of diabetes than I was ready to actually reach at that moment. So after, I want to say 7 years of him just battering me about getting a pump, I got one. And I hated every minute of it. So just to kind of put it in perspective, I was 14 when I got my pump. So that is freshman year of high school, puberty, like, freshman homecoming, all of those things. And it just felt so awkward.
Right. Young adolescent sensory issues, all of those things.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, what's that little thing in your pocket? It's like, you didn't know how to explain it because it was just more of the denial on the side. And you just kind of look at it and it's like, wait, diabetes literally right in my hand.
I recorded with someone a few days ago, and she was telling me about going to her first high school dance, freshman dance, with someone she grew up with. And she said she didn't want the person to know about her diabetes so much that she just ripped her pump off and threw it under a bleacher.
I actually did the same thing, except for I threw it in my bag.
See?
And that was my junior prom. And once I put it back on and I checked my blood sugar, it was 450.
Yeah, she was like
fun.
she said hers was like 370. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why like anyone upon diagnosis of a chronic health condition, something such as type 1 diabetes, there should be other measures put in place, not just for the physicalness, because that's all they talk about is like taking away this from you, taking away that from you, and making sure that you're healthy and physically intact. But they don't think about the coping mentally, emotionally, that well-being, because we know today in this day and age how trauma, even the adverse effects of trauma, how those play a heavy toll on our peers, our family, but just the person that's living with it. That it's a traumatic experience being a 6-year-old in first grade, and then in second grade as a 7-year-old going on 8. Now you're taking everything away from me. Like, it's such a traumatic experience. So if you're giving me an endocrinologist, a diabetes educator, can you also give this family psychotherapists, someone who that can help them understand the healing process of living with this, because it's something that you'll be going through for the remainder of your life.
Yeah, definitely. I remember when I first started, I had my endocrinologist, and then the first place they sent me was to a nutritionist. Like, okay, eat this, don't eat that, drink this, don't drink that. If your blood sugar's low, only eat this amount of carbs, which if you've experienced a low and you have those type of hyper hunger moments, eating 15 grams of carbs on a low is pretty near impossible.
Right. So to tell a young person that you have to go to a nutritionist, and now you conceptualizing food, diabetes, BMI, those types of things as a young growing adolescent. Like, now you're 14 years old, 13, 14 years old, and they're telling you about all of these things. And now when you hear about diabetes, and now you're correlating that with your own physical health and physical well-being and your body and your image, and you're a growing young lady now who's already going through so many other hormonal and fluctuations that the body naturally goes through. And now you're throwing diabetes and all of this baggage upon that. Like, we talk about burnout today as adults. When you're a kid, you know how many times kids are told to suck it up to,
Oh, yeah. I remember that easily. Like, especially with marching band, I remember I was starting to have a low, and I was like, you know what, I need to go sit down. And I've had a portion where somebody would be like, okay, it's only one more run. You can hold out for one more run, right? And I'm like, no.
Right. It's like, no, but in the back of our minds, it's like, how can I not do this?
Right.
Right.
And then, like, the implication of not doing it, it's just kind of thinking in the back of your mind, it's like, am I being lazy? Am I not pushing myself hard enough? Am I not being there for my team? Mm-hmm. And you have to have that internal struggle and figure out whether or not, what is too much for you. And sometimes that's just really hard for you to conceptualize.
And speaking to someone who does have diabetes, such as yourself or myself, like, we understand that. But to be able to tell someone who doesn't have it, even someone such as a diabetes educator or endocrinologist or nurse practitioner or whoever, like, they don't truly understand what it is that you're like trying to tell them. Like, they really don't understand that whole explanation of what we feel internally. Like, I cannot do this. Like, if you tell me you can't do something, I truly understand that. Like, yeah, I'm empathetic to that, because I have that in-body experience. And I know that when you can't do something, how much of a heavy toll that weighs on you mentally. Like, it's draining. Like, I can't do that. Like, I really can't do that right now. Like, I understand that.
I think that's why in 2020, when I first had that realization of my type 1 diabetes and what it was to me personally, is when I started doing a lot more with disability work, because it's really hard being a type 1 diabetic, especially because it's an invisible disability. You can't just walk up to someone and say, hey, you have type 1 diabetes. I can see that you're not, functioning as another person would function. It's super, private as far as, blood sugars and insulin intakes. And the only way you would actually know is if you were to look at a person and, oh, you see an insulin pump, or you see a sensor like Dexcom or Freestyle. And then 9 times out of 10, you have the question, oh, what is that? And now I have to get into a deeply personal conversation as to, oh, yeah, my insulin pump. Oh, what's an insulin pump? And then kind of keep diving into that. And you're like, oh, but you seem able-bodied, but you're not. And when people can't see something, it's something that they have a hard time realizing as well. So when you have those situations where you're feeling like, okay, I can't do this, I'm tired, and then someone's egging you on, it's really because they can't see your actual disability. So they forget you have it sometimes.
Right. And that goes into how do we, like, it's not even on us. It shouldn't be on us as the people living with it to have to explain it. That's like, how do we explain a low blood sugar to someone who's never experienced that? Like, we can say, oh, maybe it feels like you're intoxicated or whatnot, but that's truly not the feeling. It's
Right.
it's truly unexplainable. Like, it's an out of body experience that
Yeah.
truly alters the mind. And have to explain that to someone when you are enduring or going through that is like impossible. Like, have you ever woken up from a severe low blood sugar and had someone or a group of people like hovering over you trying to like tell you things, and they're asking you questions like, what's your name, where are you at, things like that?
I haven't had a low blood sugar that badly before, but one thing that I've really had to do, especially like going through college and coming into, my adult life, is just kind of dumbing things down. And I don't necessarily like doing that. But the amount of time that it's going to take for me to explain what a low blood sugar is, what a high blood sugar is, what treatment plans are there, it's just more of like, for instance, if I'm at work and I have a low blood sugar, I just tell my managers, hey, I need to go eat food. That's it. Not I have a low blood sugar, nothing of the sort. And if it gets to a very low point, it's just more of exaggerating to the point of like, hey, I might be about to pass out. This is what you need to do. Or even getting down to the point like, hey, listen, if they're not listening to me, I am dying right now. Because quite literally, I could be. And that's something, if you dumb it down to that specific amount, that is something they understand. Not, hey, my blood sugar is 32. What does that mean? What do I do? You know?
Right. It's yes, sometimes we have to dumb it down to life and death.
Yeah.
Like, I am not trying to die right now.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like we can't even truly express that. So I was telling someone the other day, like, because my oldest son, he has ASD, autism spectrum. He's on autism spectrum, and I've created like chords for him. Like, sometimes just to flash a chord to someone, like if he's come in contact with an authoritative figure and he's not true, like emotionally, he's not able to fully explain like some of the things he's going through. So just be able to just flash that chord. Like, it could be like colors, like a green chord is like the go chord, like stating that he's able to do certain things right then. Or the red chord is like, I'm not able to explain myself right now. And it'll have like a contact on there, like reach out to my parents or so. So like for us, people living with diabetes, we may need that red or green card. Like this is the red flag, basically telling you that right now I am not able-bodied. I'm not able to do the things or the tasks that you were trying to get me to do. And I can't truly explain what it is that I'm going through. So just graciously give me this time so I can figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. Wish I had some of those cards during the day. It's like, hey, yellow card.
Let's create those cards. Let's create them together. Like seriously, because
Let's do it.
We do need them. And I mean, there's a lot of things that are out there in the world that we see, especially through our social media feeds, but I don't think I've seen those cards. And it's something
Yeah.
that's simple.
Yeah. And it's easy, color coordination. Most people know that pretty early on in life, and it's pretty simple for you to be able to, conceptualize.
I was like, why is it so dark? Good.
Yeah, definitely.
T-Slum? T-Slum?
No. Omnipod.
Usually, look, people, when they say they gotta go change their pump, they're never talking about Omnipod.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm new to Omnipod right now. I kind of got burned out by doing injections, so a lot of my friends were using Omnipod. So I was like,
if you have any questions, let me know, because I've trained people on Omnipods, and
I have like 1,000. So
look, I can answer them all on air or off air, your choice.
we can do it later. Honestly, right now I'm chilling. It's been a weird transition to Omnipod.
It is.
It's different.
It's great different. I actually did MDI for 17 years before I went to Omnipod.
To be honest, I still kind of prefer MDI after everything I've gone through with my Omnipod.
Mm-hmm. Like you're not used, like, okay, I'm having cannulas bend and insulin's not being going, that it's not absorbing. And
No, it's just I've had so many issues with Omnipod. I just and it's not Omnipod itself, it's more of my like bolus and basal rates.
Gotcha.
So I got Omnipod in January. That first 2 weeks, I had 3 or 4 lows a day. And then after that, it kind of stabilized out a little bit. And then I would get a very high blood sugar, so somewhere around the 400s, and it would spike and it would stay there forever. And then, say 4, 5, 6 hours later, it would just drop. So go from 400 to like 50.
So a great issue that I've found, and I've shared this with some people that I know that work in endocrinology and stuff, that basal rates upon changing from MDI to a pump, they have to do their due diligence in making sure that your basal rate is correct, because once you get on a pump, you realize that your basal is not the same all the time.
No, it's so different.
It changes by the hour. It changes by the day. It changes by how it's absorbed, whether you're putting it on your thigh, your abdomen area, your back, your hip, your arms, all of that changes. And it's a great transition and learning process, another traumatic experience.
Yeah. And the only reason I decided to do Omnipod was because I had so many issues with my pump when I was 14. So I had my Medtronic pump from age 14 to 17. And I hated every minute of it. So I would be walking to class or something, tubing would get caught on the door, boom, tubing ripped out. Now I have to either go to get a new pump set or go home if I didn't have a pump set. It would just fall off during band. It would fall off in the shower. It would never be accurate as far as the sensor was concerned. I would be bruised from having pump sets. It was a lot.
And you're using Omnipod 5?
Yeah.
Do me a favor. when we get off of air, if you have the time, you will have the time because it's diabetes and it runs everything. It runs and it ruins everything about us at times, but it also helps us build community.
Yeah.
Go look up the Juicebox Podcast Pro Tip Series on Omnipod 5.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
It is the number one resource in Omnipod 5. Well, Juicebox Podcast is by far the number one resource in diabetes care and management in the world. But that Omnipod 5 series is second to none. They actually use it with Omnipod 5 and training their educators.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's dive back in. I did want to speak more about family. You did briefly talk about your family and how it affected y'all when you were diagnosed. But
Yeah.
I want to go back to are you from North Carolina?
I am from North Carolina. I'm still in North Carolina. So
You're a lifelong North
yeah.
Carolinian.
Yeah.
You have North Caroliniage.
Yeah.
Um, North, South,
Northeast.
Northeast. Okay. My family's in Winston-Salem. I have some family in Raleigh, Greenville,
Nice.
all about North Carolina. But you how many people did you grow up with in your family? Do you have siblings?
I don't know. I'm an only child. One of the main notable points for me when I was diagnosed is that I live in rural North Carolina. So up in the Northeast, about an hour away from everything. So essentially my endo and like any diabetic resource for me was an hour and 15 minutes away, which sounds like a lot. Considering where I am, everything is over an hour away. So like my pharmacist and my pharmacy is over an hour away, and my grocery store is over an hour away. So
Currently?
currently, yes. So it's just one of those things is where you already are isolated being in a rural area. And then you become even more isolated when you feel, you're the only person with this one disability or disease or however you want to categorize it.
Mhm. Yeah. So when you hear people speak of things such as food deserts, it makes you like food desert. Like
Yeah, food desert.
I'm on a food like I'm on a forgotten island with Wilson the ball trying to figure out life. Like seriously,
Yeah.
like you've been cast away sometimes. When it comes to like even growing up with different medical conditions, ailments, or whatever, your parents probably were the people who first attempted to remedy everything. Um, give you that band-aid.
Yeah, no, my parents and my family have been absolutely amazing.
Hmm.
Well, all things considered, I always feel like, you judge or base a situation based on the tools that people have. And they have been one of the best supportive groups of people that I've had in my life ever. And it's more of that disconnect that we were talking about earlier, that when you don't have type 1 diabetes, you don't really understand what we're going through. And to that effect, it was more of they couldn't conceptualize that I felt as alone as I did.
Right.
Like even speaking to, for instance, going to the hospital when I got diagnosed, there were no other kids there that were diagnosed with type 1. I went to my endocrinologist at the children's hospital for, I want to say 9, 10 years. Every single doctor's appointment that I went to, every 3 months, had no other person waiting in the waiting room, nobody leaving the office when I got there, nothing.
Yeah.
So,
All young people, yeah, all the young people that I know that I've recorded with or I've spoken with that were diagnosed at that young age all went to a pediatric hospital where like you were at the main hospital because of the location or the area that you lived in, and that hospital being an hour plus out of the way. So basically they gave you what they had. Like it was like basically just whatever we can give her to make sure that she lives
Yeah.
instead of referring you to, or I've heard of families getting like airlifted to pediatric hospitals. That wasn't even an option for you.
Wow. I did not know that. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember because right before I got diagnosed, I was losing a lot of weight. And the doctor's office that I was going to, it's just like my pediatric doctor, was a branch of the hospital that I went to. So I remember one day I was just at home watching TV, and my parents were like, "Hey, you've got to go to the hospital." And I was like, "Okay." I've never been to the hospital before. I had no idea what any of the stuff meant. And we got there and they started running more tests, and it turned out I was type 1 diabetic, and that's how I found out about it. I was in the hospital for, I believe, 10 days to try to figure out, like, bolus basal rates, treatment plans, nutrition. But as I go through the memories now, like you were saying, it was more physical. I don't remember any type of therapy or mental health support or anything like that when it came down to me learning about, my diagnosis.
And I always when I hear things like that, I think about like your parents. I know at that point in time, you being 7 years old, it almost reminds me of like going through traumatic experiences as a young person, like witnessing death or learning about the death of a loved one, and you tend to always see, or like, you, where I'm from particularly, you see a lot of the attention being placed upon the adults. You see the sorrow in adults, the sadness in the adults, but at the same time, you have to realize and identify that these children are the ones that are still growing and developing. So the traumatic experiences that they see, that they experience, are becoming more innate. Like, it's becoming a part of them, and it's in a lot of times it becomes expected. When young people go through traumatic experiences, they start expecting this to reoccur. So it makes me think about like the diagnosis of a young person and that traumatic experience that they go through, like yourself. And I I wonder, like, your parents, I know that it was it was an equally traumatic experience for them. But at the same time, like you said, they didn't actually have the feels of it. Like, what was actually happening to their child that is now going to have to go back to school, go back out into the world and learn to live with this disease. Um, I hope that today, like, you and your parents are able to sit down and have that one-on-one or that two-on-one conversation. I had this conversation with my dad even more recently about my diagnosis, and just thanking him, like, if it wasn't for you, for him actually telling me, like, "Well, I think you're diabetic. We need to get you to the emergency room right away." Like, they told me I wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't have made it past the night. And
Wow.
yeah, and it just makes me think, like, you being 7 years old, your parents having to rush you an hour plus away. And I think about like myself being a parent, like the things that were going through their head and through their minds. Like, I know they had each other to lean on. And as parents, you know that you're going to do whatever you can to help better your child, because you always are going to put your child in front of all of your needs. If you're a parent, which, I mean, you're telling me like your parents are parents, like,
Yep.
really, really. And I know there's many sacrifices that our parents make for us. And I know our health and our well-being is a sacrifice of their own that they'll give up to make sure that we are well. So, like, yeah, I just want to like praise and give honor to people such as your parents, the parents that I see daily across social media feeds that I know are doing everything just to make sure that their kid lives their best life. Like, wow, learning about and managing a chronic health condition.
Yeah, and it's definitely not easy. I mean, thinking, ahead of time, like I'm 24 years old right now. I could not even conceptualize having to go through that. And even in situations of emergency where, like, say, not diabetes related, where I've had to take people to the hospital or assist with taking people to the hospital, it's an hour plus, like, and that's not even including traffic. There's so much stuff that could happen. And later on down the line with my diabetes, I've been diagnosed with anxiety and depression. So it's more of, that type of mental hurdle, trying to make sure that, you're going to be okay, to make sure that they're going to be okay in that very long time period. Because, like, in between, like, where I live right now and a hospital, there's literally nothing but woods, probably a couple of Dollar Generals, if you know the stereotype. But
Right, right.
so,
Hopefully there's someone out in the backwoods messing with rDNA and trying to whisk something up in a basket in the lab. There's people out in those woods doing things, making their own labs. Hopefully one
yeah,
of them has some rDNA and whipping it up. So in case
yeah,
we know that there's a shortage even today. So if someone out there is learning how to make insulin in those backwoods, because there's no way, and especially in today with the shortage of insulin, should she have to travel an hour away to get the medical necessities that she needs to actually just live. And we're not talking about like live, like be able to go out and have fun and do those things. We're just talking about like life and death, like be able to have just gas for air type of living.
yeah.
Yeah. You said you didn't have no siblings.
No siblings, no.
Do you know if your parents had planned on having more children before your diagnosis?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. But
Look, they have this all-star child here today, who's come on, like I want to say you're on a board of the Grammys, but that's not what it is.
no.
But it sounds good. It sounds good. So we're going to say that, Grammy you.
Yeah, I'm actually on the board for a religious nonprofit as well. So I also help
Look,
with social justice efforts for them. So, making sure that people don't have to go through something that I've already gone through is something that's very important to me. Like seeing
mhm,
people struggle, like it's tough, like just because I struggle for something does not mean you need to.
you need to.
If we can find that kind of solution, then we be making the world a much better place.
Look, a true person living with type 1 diabetes is an empath at heart. Like seriously.
Yeah.
If we're not, then like I don't know, like you're not a person living with diabetes. Seriously. Like diabetes may have just you might be just on borrowed time with diabetes. Like seriously. Because there's no way, like I said, like traveling that hour, there's no way I'm going to let another person living with diabetes go without the insulin, go without, like if I have technology that I'm not using, go without that technology. Like there's no way I'm going to allow that on my watch. Seriously, because we have to do whatever we can to not only lessen the burden that we live with diabetes, but help lessen the burden for everyone else because it's a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, like the past couple of weeks has really just put that in perspective for me. Like I've had, I'm gonna say, three blood sugars that have been in the 500s the past couple of weeks. And just trying to conceptualize, like I was talking to my endo, and my endo is, like I said, absolutely amazing. I have his personal phone number and everything. And it was like, hey, listen, if you feel comfortable to go to the hospital, go to the hospital, because at that point, you never know what could happen when you're at 500. Like even my sensor was like, hey, you're just high. And I don't think there's anything more scary
Look,
about looking at a diabetic sensor and not seeing any numbers.
right, it's saying hi when you're like bye. Like seriously, seriously. Yeah. Now you're on a pump. I That's another learning curve that I had to teach myself. When I know when I'm upwards of like anything plus 200. I've been needing double to triple the amount of insulin. And m- being MDI, I was trained in to wait, like wait for a certain amount of time before you give another bolus. And on a pump, I'm like, nope, I'm not going to wait. And also knowing now, like, okay, if I'm not going down from that 200 plus, like maybe I need to now manually inject into the muscle because the insulin absorbs faster. But at the same time, I have to pay attention to it more, almost like if you're going low and you give a glucagon injection, like now you have to really pay attention to it. And that's what you have to do when you're injecting into the muscle.
To
So,
me, it's just kind of insane listening to other people with type 1 speak about their blood sugars because you're talking about manually injecting for a 200. Like, honestly, for me, a 200 is something that I wouldn't even worry about, to be honest. Like, I grew up, like, because of the way that I treated and saw diabetes from like age 7, I'll say to about age 16, 17, 18. 200 was good for me. Like I felt fine, I felt normal. And then I just had, my endo talking about you're going to lose limbs, you're going to like, you know, lose all of this stuff, your vision's going to be affected, XYZ. And I was like, okay. It wasn't something that I could fully get as a like 12, 13-year-old. And it's just kind of crazy how our experiences change the way we treat our blood sugars and the way we treat our life in general as a type 1 diabetic. Like, I don't even think about manually injecting until I hit 400. 300, it's okay, it'll go down eventually. But, I don't really start to get worried until I hit there when I've seen some people online, like, just some diabetic influencers that I follow. It's like, oh my gosh, my blood sugar is spiking. It's 250. I'm like, 250? Not that I'm judging anybody else's experiences or anything. It's just it feels like anything on social media. A lot of it is going to be more of being quote unquote perfect, in which no one's perfect at diabetes. If you were, you wouldn't have it. You know.
so for me personally, I know that for many years my blood sugar was like, I don't know what it was. And when I go back and look at A1Cs, it was in the tens, 11s, etc., like upwards of that. And I know that when I switched doctors back in 2012, and I got a better understanding of insulin, like I truly noticed a difference in my mental well-being and my ability to keep like focus and understand things when my blood sugar levels were more in the non-diabetic range. And truly, I didn't even think about diabetes for those first 9, 10, 11 years. It was just like, okay, I'm giving this insulin because I'm about to eat. But I didn't realize until years later that my biggest spike was adrenaline. Like I can be sitting somewhere at 100, going to like an event, a sporting event, and not even like excited. And then within the first 10 minutes, my blood sugar could be upwards of like 250. And I didn't know that until I was able to get technology such as a CGM. And now like I'm realizing like that's why I wasn't able to focus like in past relationships and in school. I remember like doing exams. I remember going and applying for jobs and having to sit down at a computer and my focus not being there and me not knowing why until many years later where I was able to get this new doctor and he like took his time and we were able to learn about the hormonal and fluctuations together. And on top of that, like I have a first cousin who's a type 1 diabetic like myself. Um, she's 28 years old. And a few years ago, when I got into working in public health and mainly focusing on people with type 1 diabetes, like she reached out to me and was telling me that her A1C was at a 17, and she had already been living with diabetes since she was 12 years old. So she was living with it for 14 years at the time. And she told me, she was like, cousin, they told me that I'm blind in both eyes. And I'm like, at the time she was 23, 24 years old. And I took it upon myself to like research everything for her, reached out to my entire diabetic online community. Um, and I found out like I got her to get a second opinion, found out she had retinopathy in both eyes, but it was just blockage where the regular eye doctor told her she was blind. She ended up getting her eyes cleared, got her vision back, but also she has neuropathy in her foot. Um, Now, just last year, she was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. So, and it's all due to years of her not knowing, not neglect, just the education, like the simplicities of education that often are skipped, especially when you talk about people of color. We're not gifted the opportunities to always be at our best. So like when I hear things like with you said, the 250s and seeing influencers and whatnot, I do see that, like how people will jump in and just say like, I'm at this number and basically I'm going to die, or I don't know what I'm going to do or whatever. But I mean, as long as you yourself know like the actions that are needed to be in play so that you can get back to being in your range, like that's what truly matters. And at the same time, if anyone out there needs any kind of education or resource or guidance, like I'm going to always give that. And I won't ever judge another person living with diabetes off of my own experience. It's I go off of like education first, then the lived experience of everyone that I come about.
Right. And I'm glad to hear that your cousin is doing better. I really made that comment to the most point just to say that a lot of times on social media, we want to have this perceived image.
Mhm.
And living with diabetes, yes, it can be great. You can do whatever you want. You can be whoever you want to be. You can be wherever you want to be. But the reality of it is that that 250 blood sugar, if I would have seen that and someone said, oh my gosh, that's my spike when I was like 9, 10 years old, like some of these kids just hopping on social media these days, it's something that I would have just blocked out of my mind because for me, that wasn't my experience. Like a lot of diabetics that I know, a real spike isn't a 250. Like it's a good spike if you want to say that, oh my gosh, I've been completely perfect forever and now I just have a 250 blood sugar. But if we're being completely honest here, a lot of times it's just not reality. Like when was the last time that you actually spiked and your spike was 250? Not saying that doesn't happen, but I'm saying that in the eyes of, say, a person who just got diagnosed with type 1 and they're trying to learn how to control their blood sugars, what to look out for, what are their triggers for highs, lows, etc. If you were to see that someone's like, oh yeah, I spiked, and that person is normally above their target range, so somewhere in that 200 range, it's just like, oh, people are just spiking where I'm at. Nobody actually is living the experience, and I am.
Right.
And that's one thing that always kind of troubled me. It's like my spikes were 3, 4, 500 at a time. Was it often? No, but they do happen. And it's okay to say that those things happen.
Right. It's okay to live an authentic life instead of just putting out a filament so that people can see you as being this perfect thing. Um, our truths are truly what matter, because if someone else, a newly diagnosed person, like you said, were to just see this perfect world, this perfect life, like everyone's bright and sunny and shining, living with diabetes, then they will be going after and trying to reach something that's truly not real, like reality,
Realistic. Yeah.
realistic. Seriously, that's why I always like, if someone tells me that they're always high, their blood sugar's always high, like the first thing I think of is basal, like your basal insulin, because that's what people who are non-diabetic have going nonstop 24/7. They have a basal in their body that's adjusting to the hormonal fluctuations, to the carbohydrate intakes. So that's the first thing I look at. And then I look at, okay, after that, you cannot correct someone's insulin to carb ratio or insulin sensitivity factor unless that basal is correct. So you will see people who decide like, okay, I'm not going to bolus for food. Many people do. They're like, I'm not going to pre-bolus, I'm not going to bolus for food. Um, but then they're like, they wonder why their blood sugar has spiked so high. Or they wonder why their blood sugar has dropped so low because after they chose not to pre-bolus, now they're giving 10, 20 units. Like, and that's an education that we're typically skipped. We're not taught during that initial process where we're not also given the education in social or mental well-being. We're skipped that education in how to just change our doses. Like, we're the people that are living with diabetes. We are. So why aren't we being shared the resources, and why are they being locked in a box in a physician's office, in an 80-year-old physician's office? Why isn't he helping me better myself for not only today but for tomorrow?
Yeah, that's completely true. I mean, I've been doing the same thing with my new endocrinologist. When I first started seeing him, he was like, "Hey, is it after meals that you're high, before meals that you're high, overall that you're high?" And in the beginning, it was overall because I would say in the beginning, my blood sugar was just always high, no matter what. I would eat, I would not eat. There were times where I just don't eat breakfast, and my blood sugar is still high in the early morning. He was like, "Okay, have you adjusted your basal rate?" And I was like, "I don't know how to do that." And he was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to show you how to do that." So that with all of these barriers, like I said, it's an hour, 20 minutes to my doctor's office. It's an hour to a hospital. It's an hour to a pharmacy.
Mhm.
I would be able to use those resources where I am to be able to affect my well-being.
Right. That's why community such as like the diabetic online community, people I hate when people keep in resources, because for someone like you has to who has to travel in an
Mhm.
hour one way, an hour back the other way, like there should be someone who you can reach out to in between all of that time, and you can have that open dialect and communication with, where you both can help each other. Like, you can help them mentally and they can help you physically, or vice versa. Like, the community should be that. It should be wholesome. And I mean, there are people out there who, like myself, do everything they can to help better the next person that's living with diabetes or living with any chronic health condition. Because I mean, like my dad, my cousin has chronic kidney disease, and my dad does equally. And I know that myself. Like, I have type 1 diabetes. I can't give my dad a kidney. Like, that's crazy. If I could give my dad a kidney, I would give him a kidney. I'd give my dad both my kidneys if I could, because he gave me life, like, seriously.
Yeah.
And like, when we hear about where, like, we've been talking for a while about like how people talk about, basically it's like they don't they're at a certain point, and they don't know how to come down from it, or basically they're crying and they're complaining and they're moaning and bickering about this, but at the same time they're not showing remedies.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of my main thing about like the online diabetic community. Like it's great. I've loved learning more about it these past 4 years that I've really gotten entrenched in it. But I just really dislike when we get into these social media spaces and we pretend that everything is perfect. Everything is just, hunky dory, whole type of thing where, yes, I struggle. Yesterday, I could not get out of my bed and I couldn't do it 3 days in a row last week because my blood sugar was 400, then it went to 40, then it went to 300, and then it went back to 50. Those things happen. And if we're not being open and transparent with it, people are going to end up feeling alone and isolated because all they see are these picture perfect diabetic lives where that's not necessarily the case. And even growing up, seeing those things and hearing those things from stories from other, diabetic professionals or people in the diabetic space, it really triggered a lot when it came down to my anxiety and my depression because you're finding out, oh, everybody else is doing it. Why can't you do it? Why don't you have the picture perfect 7.5 A1C and all these other things when, if we're being honest, it doesn't happen that way. Diabetes is an up and down roller coaster that we're always going to be on.
Right.
And it's never going to be constant.
And there's no two people living with diabetes that manage the same. We are not the same. The inner workings of our bodies are different. The mental strains that we go through physically, we're different. The food consumption, the access to healthy living or healthy lifestyle choices don't exist for everyone. So there should be that, like, let me throw up this yellow card now that says that you can't tell me to go green because my yellow card is flashing always. It's always in caution because I have to travel an hour just to get food. Like seriously, seriously. Like I mean, unless you got somebody else out in the backwoods that is growing like all their food and has all the livestock and stuff, like it's crazy. So like even when you like, I'm glad that you were able to have that community, such as when you like, I jotted down something probably about 20 minutes ago when you were at NC State in the marching band.
Yeah.
There were 4 other people lit with type 1 diabetes. I've never, and I live in a metropolitan area in the Philadelphia area. I've never like just shown up somewhere and there's been 4 other people living with type 1 diabetes unless we plan this event. like wow.
It was crazy because it was 500 people in the band. And I was
Right.
like, there's no way.
No way. Because you had already gone through all these years of what,
Not
like
see anyone.
like 11, 12 years without seeing anyone with it. And now magically they all just pop up. Like
Yeah.
that
I think
be
I think it was a
amazing.
sign,
Yeah, that had to been like kind of amazing at like wow. And at the same time, like how y'all get diabetes too. Like this is mine. This is mine. Diabetes belongs to me. And now y'all all got it. Like it was my special thing, my special gift that I never asked for. Like
Yeah.
yeah, like did you were you able to build relationships with them? With any
Yeah,
of
I
them?
was. And believe it or not, the person that I told the story about, she had just got diagnosed the summer before.
No. So
So
you're
she
able to
was
tell her everything.
I was able to tell her some stuff. I'm still learning, I think that's really important, especially when you're in these spaces to explain, I'm still learning. I don't know everything. I'm not perfect. No one is. We all
No
have
one is.
somewhere to go on this journey.
No one is perfect, mentally, physically, and diabetes. Like, excuse my French, but you ain't like, like seriously. Like, diabetes is a whole nother ball game. We don't even want to play in this sport. Like, like I remember being in school, and you had to pick like people for teams and whatnot. I really didn't like that. I really like. like, even though like people were like, yeah, let me get Will, I was like, I don't want to be the person that has to pick the team, because we should all equally be given the opportunity to just participate. Like, seriously. Like, I'll always be like, okay, then if I'm picking a team, then I'm picking 5 people at once. Like, I don't want to have to,
Mhm.
like, there should be no one being first or last at any given time. Like, in diabetes, no one's first or last. We all
Yeah.
have this ball in our court that's flat.
And let's be honest, diabetes is kicking all of our asses at some point. Let's
It
be real.
is. At some point, man, all the time it's kicking my ass. Like, right now, just like, I really have to think about what my blood sugar is right now. Like, come on now. You know what else I could be thinking about? I could be thinking about a vacation. I could be thinking about some, like, the best food ever, like like some
No,
crab
like
and some shrimp, and like, come on now.
going on the other side of that coin, I have been craving chocolate chip pancakes for like 3 weeks now. So I finally made some this morning because it's my day off. Guess what my blood sugar is right now?
I don't want to guess.
I want you to guess. Guess.
Because it's a diabetes thing. Like, how can we guess? How can I guess a blood sugar? Like, seriously, I can't even guess my own blood sugar right now. Like, I'm going to say, because you were talking about, you were in the 500s for like 3 days, then to get down to 250, you had chocolate chip pancakes. Because I had chocolate, I mean, not chocolate chip pancakes, but I had pancakes this morning. I made pancakes for the first time in months this morning. Those pancakes by themselves are going to give you a crazy spike that's unexpected. I'm going to throw 150 on top of whatever your regular blood sugar is. So let's say somewhere between 2 and 400.
Wow, that's a nice range. You're not wrong though. It's 375.
See? Look.
And it's so weird because I pre-bolus, which I'm horrible at. I am horrible at pre-bolusing. But my Omnipod literally will not give me any more insulin. Like since I've had all those lows when I first started, they've just completely slashed it. I think I have 6 units of insulin on board right now. So we'll see how that goes in the next couple hours. But
Right. Has your educator told you that with the Omnipod 5, how every pump change, it's learning more?
yeah, that's what they told me. It's
Definitely.
still kind of weird, considering after all those lows were
Right.
pretty dangerous for me because a lot of
So
them were on the road.
so
So
if initially your settings were off, then the only way that it's going to relearn you is if you reset the whole system. Like, the entire thing has to be reset from the beginning with new settings, and then you have to relearn again. Like, every time, like, if you notice that the settings are off,
yeah,
then it has to be reset. You have to change everything, your insulin sensitivity, like your carb ratios, your basal, but not only change them, but you actually have to go into the settings and reset the entire device to where you actually have to input your email, your password, all of those things over. You have to reconfigure it for it to
yeah.
relearn you.
I will try that later. I've been debating on whether or not I'm going to keep the Omnipod. Is I was doing way better on MDI
Mhm.
than I was on the Omnipod. I've never been this high before, but I'm not blaming that strictly on the Omnipod because I know that with the dosage rates, it's been insane, like a roller coaster for me the past couple months. But I'm trying to hold off until the second week of April. I'm going to Dreamville Festival, so I don't want to have to go to a concert outside and then have to deal with, needles and
Mhm.
changing basal and bolus rates, having to remember what that is. Because before, if you asked me what my bolus rate was, I could tell you like in my sleep. But now it's like, wait, is it 10? Is it 15? Is it, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, mostly everyone I know who's on Omnipod 5, whatever your ratios were before, they're like double and triple.
Mine are like cut in half or cut in a quarter.
That's what they tell everyone initially when you switch to the Omnipod, that your insulin usage, your total daily insulin, is probably going to be like cut in half. but then like your basal may go down a lot, but then everything else goes up.
I actually haven't had that. So what happened with me was when I first got on it, they put my same settings as I was, MDI. And then I had all of these lows. So like for instance, I would drop at 2 or 3 in the morning. That's my typical time for dropping.
Mhm.
Eat, like 70 grams of carbs, because let's be honest, 15 is not realistic as a diabetic, when you get in that low blood sugar mood. And then I'd fall asleep sometimes before I took my insulin for the extended bolus that I had. I'd wake up, it would be around 250, get my correction, and then an hour later, as I was driving to work, I also work an hour away from my house. It would
You're a
be
traveler.
you don't have a choice. It's not fun, but it is what it is. So at an hour after that, I'd be like halfway through my drive and I would be at 50. And you don't want to be driving on the interstate at 50. And then saying you have 3 or 4 units of insulin on board.
That's me.
Yeah, I see it. Thanks. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like I said, it's a journey.
Right. And
Yeah.
people living with diabetes, it's too much. Like I hear from people who like manage their children or whatever with algorithm based pumps or whatever, but we're living with it. We're already dealing with too much math. Actually have to go through and look at all these numbers and to do a basal testing, which can take upwards of 12 to 24 hours to where you're not consuming any carbohydrates, any food intake, and you're just sitting there like trying to figure out like at what times your blood sugar rises, what time it drops, to try to make incremental steps to attack that. Like on top of the diabetes math and just living your life, like it's too much. And people not living with diabetes, they don't understand that. They're like, oh, you got a pump. Okay, you got like, it's going to fix everything.
No,
No.
because that is what everyone was telling me when they were trying to force me on this pump. And it's not. Like, I want to say right here, right now, a pump is not going to fix your life. It's
Nope.
not going to control your diabetes. If you are fine without it, you are fine without it. It is not something that is completely necessary or mandatory for you.
I remember, um, I remember the exact date that I switched to the pump. It was November the 11th, 2022. I remember the exact date. And the woman who helped me train telling me, it's going to be a big adjusting period for you going from MDI to a pump. And I said, okay. I said, I'm ready. I said, I'm a diabetes guru. I got this. I've helped so many people like get their A1Cs from the teens to like below sevens over the years. Like, I got this. I got this. You know, after we went through that training, um, I called her back within the first hour and was like, my blood sugar is above 250 and it hasn't been above 250 in like a couple years now. And and she's like, check your site to make sure that
That it's working
yeah,
and
that
you're
it's not leaking. And I said, what? I said, so you mean to tell me that the insulin that I'm putting in my body may not have gone in my body now? So because I was so used to like giving that 24-hour acting insulin
yeah.
and it working all day and me just bolusing for meals or corrections. I did not know that, okay, now I have this pump and now it's giving like the micro doses, which are basal every so and so minutes or whatever. I did
Yeah.
not know like, okay, if it now, if that micro dosage does not hit me, my blood sugar is going to rise. Like, wow, now I got to pay attention to it on every minute.
No, that and then the fact that like this is one of my number one gripes with pumps, and I've been dealing with this with Omnipod for a couple like of site changes. But if you put the insulin in your Omnipod or in your pump or whatever device you're using, and then it fails, I've just lost 200 units of insulin, or like between 150 and 200, and now there's nothing I can do to get it back.
Oh yeah, you can get it back, and I get it back all the time. There's no way. Look, take your syringe.
Oh, do you just take a syringe and just like
Yeah,
push it out?
yes, you can actually retract the insulin,
That
put it back
that's
into a vial, or put it back into another pod. Yes, there's no way I'm
that is
wasting that
insane.
liquid gold. That is liquid.
Okay.
That
Number
yeah,
three thing that I've learned so far doing this podcast.
yeah. Look,
Cool.
I do that, and even like um a a pod that expires, if there's insulin remaining in there, I take that insulin out and put it in and use it for my next one.
Wow.
Yeah. They say like insulin in a vial can can be left out of a fridge for like a month. Like seriously.
So you know the
What?
funny thing? When I switched to Omnipod in January, they didn't tell me anything about the vials. Like I've used insulin vials before, obviously, but I never really thought about it. And then I had my training day and they're like, okay, get your vial. And I was like, I have a pen.
Pen.
They're like, oh, you're supposed to have a vial, but I mean, a pen couldn't work. And I'm like, oh, you didn't give me one. So,
Look, simple things in like they could have just told you education that was missed. Like, where is this one pager that y'all should have?
yeah.
That easy one pager that you should share with everyone. Like, why is everyone speaking these different languages?
yeah, no. And it's just insane because I was like, okay, vial. And then the first time I had my like Omnipod issue, my endocrine was like, hey, just get a syringe and then pull the insulin out of your vial. I was like, but I don't have vials. He's like, wait, so you've been taking the insulin out of your pens and putting it in the pump? And I was like, yeah, because nobody told me I needed a vial. Like I should have thought about that ahead of time, granted, but like, you know,
Like, isn't that what I'm supposed to do?
yeah.
It's insulin. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you know anyone or if you've ever seen the N pen. Like, it takes the
I
small
have an
part.
M pen.
Okay.
It was weird. I did the M pen, I want to say for a month. And to me, it was just like a pump
Mhm.
made into a pen. Like it was trying very
Yes.
hard to be a pump. Have you tried it?
Yeah, I used N pen before I went to the pump because I mean I felt like I wanted that training process before I actually like gave in to the pump. And I really enjoyed it, but those little cartridges, those I used them to fill up my pods.
Yeah, I was doing a couple of videos about I think I was doing videos about my freestyle before I switched over to Dexcom.
Mhm.
And somebody had sent me something about the M pen and they're like, hey, listen, I know you're MDI and you love being MDI. Just check this out. So I got them to send me one. And one of my main struggles at that point was that I couldn't remember whether or not I took my long lasting insulin. My long lasting insulin I usually took at around 11:30 p.m.
Gotcha.
So it was like half asleep for the most part. Like, wait, did I take it? Did I not take it? And one thing that my parents were more concerned about, my family was more concerned about, was I don't typically document my blood sugars or my carbs or my bolus rates or whatever the case is, because I just something I never really found important,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. You know, like I'm a very picky eater. I eat the same things in a rotation pretty much. So I know what carbs I'm getting. The bolus rate doesn't really change unless I get a new bolus ratio. So they're like, you know what? Now you can send your, carbs and your bolus to your doctor, and your doctor can actually figure out how to change your bolus and basal rate to get you lower. And I'm like, no, but it's fine. And when I did the MPen, it was fun. The only thing I kind of hated about it was you don't really have a way to figure out when it's out of insulin. Have you noticed that?
Look, you're taking me back about 3 years. I haven't used it in
Yeah.
about 3 years, so I'm trying to think about that N pen.
It was weird. So, like, the way the little capsules were, you had the 0 on the capsule, but it was a large amount of space after the 0.
Right. I
So,
remember because of this, you have to screw it.
throw it back down. Yeah.
It's a funny thing because I was just doing some spring cleaning the other day, and I got diabetes stuff everywhere.
Everywhere.
And I saw the box with the N pen, and I was like, looked at it, and I just threw it out. Was like, I don't need this anymore. I'm never going to use this again. So yeah, I scrapped it.
Yeah, no, I had the same thing because they were when I was on my Medtronic pump, they gave me the upgraded version of the one that I was on, and I was like, listen, I'm never using this ever again. They're like, well, take it, you might change your mind. And now it's like sitting in the back of my closet with a full like Medtronic pump, Medtronic sensors, and like a couple months of supplies. And I feel really bad about it because it's like somebody really could have used this, you know?
So if you don't ever want to use it, I do have a hub where I do collect supplies and gift them to people that are in need. So again, off air, if you want to reach out to me, I'm sure I can find someone that can use that. I'm actually right now sending supplies, getting like um CGM supplies to gift to people in Uganda, because I've recorded with two people in Uganda, and in a country that's 30 million people, there's only 4 endocrinologists, and
Wow.
no one uses CGMs. There's this one young lady I recorded with. She's the only one who's used the CGM, and she used it as a trial. And everyone's like now like trying to figure out like how can they get access to CGMs.
Yeah, I imagine. I will take a look at it. I'm like 80% sure it expired, but I will let you know. And if I can, give it to you, then we'll figure that out and set it up.
And I wanted to retract a little bit. You were talking about sleep before. You were talking about the pen and like sleep. What are you talking about? What is
Yeah.
that? Like,
No,
I remember that 5-letter word from many years ago. It doesn't exist as much as it, like, it's not there as much as it previously was.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's really bad because I feel like every type 1 diabetic has their own, experience with sleep,
Mhm.
if they get any. I don't know. It's like periodically for me, I have these like 1 to 2 week periods where I get absolutely no sleep. And it's really either relative to my blood sugar just incrementally going up or down. So, like 150 to 170 to 120 to 150. And it's like, if you could just, stay stagnant or stable for a couple hours so I can actually sleep a little bit, then that'd be awesome. But, diabetes doesn't listen to anyone. So it's not really a great ask, but
It's like if someone ever asks you, can you describe living with type 1 diabetes? And you just gave me like just that quick like story, like made me think of it. Okay, so I'm like, let me think about the greatest vacation I've ever been on. I'm like, okay, I remember me and my wife, like, we were just talking about it the other day, like going on vacation, like, I remember we went to a private island in the Bahamas, and it was just so amazing. And I remember like us being free and going on vacation to like Vegas and just like doing like just going out there and enjoying the times. And when we were doing the spring cleaning the other day, like I was like, do you remember this? Like going and doing all these like adventures and stuff. And like I'm showing her, and she's like, wow, that was so long ago. I don't remember all of those things. Like it was like we lived carefree. It was so much fun and this and that and blah blah blah. So now if someone wants to ask me about diabetes, you know what I'm going to tell them? It's the opposite, the complete opposite of the best, the complete opposite of the best vacation you've ever been on. The complete opposite.
no, I don't disagree whatsoever. It's 0 out of 10. Don't recommend, but hey.
Not even to our worst. Like no, yeah, diabetes is different.
Yeah, not to mention like emotional reactions. Like I became like I'm a self-aware person. That's just like who I am. But when I kind of sat down those days that my blood sugar was just spiking out of control, I'm like, wait a minute, why am I angry? Like nothing's going on. My blood sugar is just super high, but I'm just mad at everything. I hate everything. I have like the worst attitude. And I was like, but nothing happened, you know? It's like the emotional response to blood sugar is something we don't really talk about either. Like especially growing up with my blood sugar being higher, like I never really realized how much that affected like how I was or how I was perceived in different conversations or in different, places. So,
Right. They consider that the altered mind.
yeah.
And that's something else that's like us living with it. We can't truly explain that. But there has been medical research over the years. So why isn't that one pager also in the clinician's office? Why isn't that one pager shared with parents and spouses and children of adults with who are diagnosed? Because that's something that truly we can't explain. Like when we're going through it, like how
I think we have enough one pagers for a book at this point.
so many like make it into like a Marvel comic book, and maybe then people will get it. Like like you get the book plus you get these cards. Like
Yeah.
seriously, I mean everything's accessible like now, like technology at our fingertips, but we do need that physical hard copy
Yeah.
to share. Like, well, we don't need it; they need it,
They need it. Yeah. Because
right?
we know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just hard for us to conceptualize. So they need it. Like
Right.
Google is so free, you know?
It's so free. And I mean, just think about like going like you're young, you're in your Kobe year,
Yeah.
and like relationships. Like it'd be so much easier if we could just hand that card
Yeah,
to
just hand
someone.
it over.
Right. Because I mean, you've gone through the last 17 years. Like your diabetes is 17 years old. That's like the license to drive. Like
Yeah.
license to drive, license to kill, license to do whatever. Like, like, how do you feel today? Like 17 years, and like you're living, like you've accomplished many things in your life. This young life, like seriously, like this is I share with people this at like towards the tail end of our podcast. Like I always start.
Well, I can't see it because your background is kind of
Okay.
hiding it, but
There we go. There we go. So I always start with writing the person's name in the middle. And then
yeah.
I just start writing like little words and I circle them. And I've actually filled up 2 pages.
Yeah.
And this is basically like your life with diabetes. Like I have Telle in the middle, and then I have many things like 2021 grad, NC State, singer, songwriter, producer, music industry, Grammy U, misunderstood, understood, since 7, sleep, restricted, understanding, coping, 2020, first friend with diabetes, marching band, family, what else do I have here? Relationships, school, you as an adult managing diabetes versus your parents and you being young and them managing your diabetes. And lastly, I have on here, what are you doing today to better diabetes in the community? Like yourself. And you like you've already talked about like making sure like the realities of diabetes are shown.
Yeah, definitely. Just something that I've really been trying to work on, especially from watching your podcast in the past, is having these real conversations with people and making things a bit more accessible. Because, like I said earlier, we want to have this perceived like cover image on our social media of being perfect, being aesthetically pleasing. And, for me, just growing up with diabetes, like resenting the idea of diabetes and the conversations around it. It's just something for me to just kind of express that out to the world. Like, hey, maybe a person who just got diagnosed and has a hard time understanding what they're going through or how they're going to make it through it, if they can see that I'm struggling, which, isn't always the prettiest, then they know that, eventually it's going to be okay. It's something that I'm trying to develop as well as, like diabetic communities and more like online communities to be more accessible because, like I said, I'm in the middle of nowhere right now. I live an hour and 10 minutes from civilization. So I'm supposed to be able to go to some diabetes camp like 5 hours away. That's not always the case for a lot of people. There's so many different socioeconomic factors, political factors, things like that would stop that. But right now, the internet is one of those resources where it's becoming even more accessible to see things that you wouldn't normally be able to see 10, 20, 30 years ago. So those are some things that I'm really focusing on. I really want to focus a lot more on legislation as well. You know, insulin is extremely high. Like, you probably already know that. But, you know, something that was $1 to make when the patent was first created, becoming thousands and thousands of dollars, a liquid that we need to physically survive is being exploited for capital gain, monetary gain, greed. And it's just something that's unfathomable.
Preach it. I don't know if you've ever had to actually ration insulin. But I know over the years, like, especially in my younger adult years, I did ration insulin, and I didn't even consider it rationing at the time because I just felt like, okay, I can't afford to get this amount at this time. So let me just break it down, not knowing that today, like, I hear and I know people personally who've died from not being able to access insulin. And that's one of the main reasons why I created something like this podcast, and we equally share our truths when it comes to living with diabetes, because we know that we can't go without insulin. We can't. Tell the free world of 5 billion people on this planet that they can't have air today. What would the reaction be to that? Everyone would be up in arms, and like the world would be crazy. It would be turned upside down, as Will Smith said. Like,
Yeah,
like,
right. And to just go to that, you know, analogy, it's like, what if people just started charging you for air? You know, something that was already free, something that was a low commodity, into something that is going to be deemed a luxury at some point down the line.
right. Like charging people for blood. Like seriously, like, okay,
Yeah.
you need your heart to pump. I'm going to charge you for the blood that flows through it.
Yeah.
That's our insulin. We need insulin. And people, like, majority of people who do not know someone living with diabetes or aren't helping manage someone living with diabetes, they don't understand that we actually need insulin to live. We cannot go, I mean, we can go a few hours, I guess.
Well, wait, have you tried the cinnamon? You tried cinnamon yet?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Look, give me a bowl. Let's see. Let's see how my body reacts. Come on now. Like, oh my gosh. The okra? Come on.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about the okra too.
Look, I had a cousin who a few weeks ago sent me through Messenger someone who's taken okra and how it helps with their diabetes. You know what I did? I just put a thumbs down. That's it. That's it. No, I have no conversation for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's just incredibly frustrating. Like, those misconceptions about diabetes, and then having diabetes in this one bubble, which is kind of insane. It's like, oh yeah, my uncle has diabetes. All he had to do was exercise and it got rid of it. You should try it. And it's like,
you should try it. Like, leave me alone. Like, that's all I want to say to those people is leave me alone. I'm ready to have a 2-year-old tantrum. Like, seriously. Like, give me my insulin and just shut up. Like,
yeah.
Like, why do they fight with us?
I don't know.
Why can't they just let us be? We let you be. We let you do all the things that you choose to do and let you be who you want to be in this world. We let you breathe this air. We let you drink your bougie water. We let you share your pictures of you doing yoga freely and Wusan and all of those things. Let us just take our insulin.
That's it. That's all we ask. That's it.
That's all we ask for. And on that note, Chantelle, I always leave our conversations with this. I have one question for you. On the day, listen, picture this. On the day, the magical unicorn comes down and sprinkles its fairy dust upon us, and diabetes is eradicated. Like 100%, you wake up and they tell you diabetes is gone. Vamoose. It no longer exists. Chantelle, you've been living with type 1 diabetes for 17 years. We've talked over the last 2 hours, which only seems like we just like, I told you it was going to be an organic conversation.
Yeah.
Look, we've been having fun. We've been talking about, we cussed diabetes out and everything. We know the burden that diabetes has had on us. On that day, we wake up and it's gone 100%. No question to it.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I am going to the Yard, that milkshake place, and trying every single one of their milkshakes. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're like the gigantic milkshakes with like pieces of cheesecake and like cake and everything on them. They look like they're 300 carbs straight. Yeah, every single one.
Every single one.
Every single one with extra hot fudge, extra chocolate.
How many different varieties are there?
I think it's like 12.
It's like 12?
I think it's like 12, yeah. Everyone's different. They have different ones in different cities, but I think it's like 12 of them.
Look, and that milkshake going to bring every diabetic to the Yard. Look, seriously, it's been a true honor in having this conversation and being able to just talk to another person that's living, managing, and thriving with this chronic health condition that I live with also. Because, as I said previously, people from the outside looking in, they just see us as people, like just humans, like day to day. They may have diabetes, but they're going to wake up tomorrow. But you and
it's diabetes, so what?
So what? Right. It's like a glass of water. Something's floating in it. Take it and throw it out.
Yeah.
You can still drink the water, right? But they don't think about like this water could have E. coli in it, like fecal matter and all of those things. Diabetes has all of that. So on a day diabetes is gone, I'm gonna have that milkshake with you. All right. Send me a message. If you wake up without diabetes, you let me know. All right.
Same here.
All right. Thank you, Chantelle, for having this conversation and joining me on the Chronically Well podcast, where we hold real conversations with community that needs to be heard. And Chantelle, you are someone that needs to be heard.
Well, thank you for having me. We'll have to do this again sometime. Maybe if I start my own podcast at one point.
Look, and I will join with you because one thing that I circle and I highlighted, the first thing after your name was energy. I can sense that you had some energy that you wanted everyone to feel because like you reached out, you like were like, Will, basically, the podcast is tomorrow, right? It's tomorrow, right? And I'm like, I mean, look, I took a screenshot of the message and everything was like energy. I need Chantelle's energy in this field. So I'm off air. We'll continue this conversation, but I just wanted to let you know again, like it's been an honor having this conversation with you. And of the like so far, I have like it's like 81 recordings. And I'm editing them. I'm trying to move fast with editing. You know.
I know the feeling. I know the feeling.
You know the feeling.
There.
Everyone else doesn't know the feeling. Equally, my dad was the first recording, and he was like, he kept asking me, when you going to do this? He's texting me, like, and when I released it, he's like asking me questions about it and everything. Like, come on now, like, what's going on? Like, I have family members that are like, let me know when the next episode comes out. I have a whole bunch of episodes that are scheduled to come out.
Yeah.
I'll let you know before, but I will let you know, Chantelle, before your episode comes out, before anyone else.
Well, thank you. And also, before like our time runs out, I want to thank you for everything that you've done for the diabetic community. You know, people like us and on these online platforms, things like that, we never really get the praise and recognition that you deserve. So I've been watching for a while. I may not comment as much as I should, which we'll get on it, but you definitely have made a difference in hundreds of people's lives, if not more.
Thank you. I truly appreciate you.